Hello and welcome to Sakhalin. Welcome to Juzhno-Sakhalinsk, here at the capital of the island off the east coast of Russia. It's the World Alpine Skiing World Cup. It's the parallel event today. So there you go. That probably won't help you understand what on earth's about to happen. That's my job. We are into a parallel event here. There are World Cup points on offer for those that finish in the top 10, essentially. And that is 100 for those that win their outright competition. We have got the women's already up to the semi-final stage for the ladies, due to a smaller number of entries, of course. As for the men, we've got 8 heats to get through fairly shortly. That is what we're going to do today. So 8 heats for the men into the quarterfinals, then both the semi-finals, the runners-up, or small final as it's known, and then the final for both the women and the men as well. Now, maybe you were joining us last season when we delivered a team event. And, during that team event, very similar rules to the parallel event here that we have. So factored times, meaning that all 3 of our classifications can race against each other.
La lista.
Now you can see weather temperature around about -9 in the snow. All the teams at the top getting ready for their attempt at the parallel event. I caught up with a couple of them yesterday after the slalom event, and they were all quite upbeat and excited at the prospect. Head-to-head racing really does add a different dynamic to the viewing. So it's a course that's set out 21 gates on either side. The course matches each other, whether you go on the red run or the blue run. Those that qualify fastest get to choose which one they prefer. Finish line absolutely parallel, and it is a really good effort to mix all of the classifications together. And you can just see there's more of a melee than normal up at the start. Instead of the disciplined order of 6 events, this is just the gathering of all of them up there, chatting their way through. There's Andrew Kirker. He's been drawn against his compatriot Thomas Walsh in the early stages. I'm sure those two would have much preferred to have met later on down the line. The forerunners getting ready to test out the system. So there's the start gates. Either side, the flap, we'll call it a flap, gate if you like, will come down. Hard to call it a gate, because the gate's on the course, so we'll call it a flap. I like that. The flap will come down, and the athlete who has a time advantage due to their impairment, will go first for a maximum of 2 seconds. That's the allotted maximum. And the second athlete will start to give chase. So, for instance, a standing athlete is always going to go later than a VI. Without Pele feeling in good spirits. That will take on Marcus Salka early doors. You can see the red and the blue set aside. Both the forerunners just getting themselves ready. So the full draw in the heats. Salka takes on Pele. Thomas Field goes against Spencer Wood. Andrew Kirk and Thomas Welsh, as I mentioned. Kozubov against Prajancic. So there's a VI versus standing. You've got Frantsev versus Arabiev. So exactly the same, VI versus standing. Kush against Kivri. That'll be a quick one. Groka against Mikushin. And we finish that round of 8 heats with Batragnoli against Sergei Alexandrov. Just the one of these events that will go at exactly the same time. That is Field and Wood in the second heat. Their factored times are exactly the same. It'll come down to who's quickest down the mountain. You have to fancy Thomas Field, don't you? After picking up victory yesterday. Spencer Wood said his mum enjoys watching. She likes the sound of my voice. Well, there you go. Look at that. Somebody has to. Somebody's mum has to. Lord knows my own doesn't. So a big hello to the Wood family. They are indeed watching on once again. And that is the course. Manoeuvre your way through the gates and get across that finish line. The turnaround for the athletes is fairly complex as well, as a couple more forerunners come flying through. The later stages, when there aren't so many heats, some of the skiers will need taking in a snowmobile to get up to the start as quick as possible. As you can see, it's a completely different start structure to that we've been using throughout the course of the competition. And you can see already bib number 16, Pele, getting himself ready. That means 16. He's the lowest ranked. And he goes against Marcus Salka, who had the best of the qualifying period. So he would have chosen the blue run. And there's his disadvantage in terms of getting out of the blocks, 1.74. We're less than 60 seconds away from competition start. Get yourself a brew, a drink, get yourself settled. I know I have. Andrea Ravelli getting his instructions across. So here we are then. It looks like these two are being readied. You must have your ski poles behind the starting mechanism. Instant disqualification if not. Seven-year-old Pele on the right-hand side. 28-year-old Marcus Salka on the left a few moments ago. There are a couple of the forerunners, actually coaching staff from the team. So here we are. Away we go then. This is just after the start, and already look at Salka coming. As much as Pelly had a 1.5 second starting advantage, he's been passed, but Salka has to maintain his line, his rhythm. Can't mitigate. He's not going to. He hasn't missed a beat here. And Marcus Salka comfortably takes his first run here in Heat 1. So Pelly finishing 2.27 down. This is about the moment that Salka starts to pass Pelly. Some 9 gates in. Fairly impressive work.
В заезде победил Мурат Пели.
Oh, cool.
So Wood and Friel this time around. It's actually Friel on the left-hand side. And Spencer Wood on the right-hand side. But there you go. We'll get there in the end. There we are. Friel flying through.
On red course. Wood Spencer.
Oh, this is pretty tight.
Blue course.
Oh, Spencer! Just missing. Just missing his run, his line. You saw the frustration from the American. Exchange between the two. Take a look in this bottom stage. He's going really well here, Spencer Wood. He'd be happy with that. I'm not sure quite what happened towards the bottom. Can hear his disappointment and his frustration.
Pressure the bottom of it. So Thomas, he won, yeah?
Now, the battle of the Americans. 28-year-old Kirker on the right. Walsh on the left. I bet these two cannot wait to get started with this. I bet they can't wait. There's a fierce enough rivalry between the Americans within camp. The camaraderie is great, but I bet they can't wait to race against each other. It's a long, long plane ride home. Bragging rights are essential. It's all right for Spencer. When he got knocked out by somebody else, he can cope with that. Walsh or Kirker. The Whistler from Alaska. Or the Giant Heart in a small package. Which one is it? They're just being made to wait. That's not going to help either of them. Just being asked if they're ready. This will be fascinating. Paralympic champion, of course, Andrew Kirker. Thomas Walsh. Something that he aspires to do. He gets better every season, but Kirker's absolutely flying here. Walsh trying to catch him. These two are tightening up as we come into the final 6 or 7 gates then. Walsh has just about got past him. Can he keep his line? Yes, he can, unlike Wood, and he's going to get there. Walsh takes it.
Yeah.
See, after the opening 10 or so gates. Kirker still has his lead. But into that bottom section, there's the winner.
Одержал Томас Волш, номер 9, Соединенных Штатов Америки.
Now, first opportunity to see how a VI athlete enters this parallel contest, and it's 47-year-old Valery Koshubov. Now, what you can't see is his guide, Evgeny Goreyev, is just to the right-hand side of your picture. The guide has to start at the side. Prijancic has to wait at his start block. Away goes Koshubov. Here comes Niko Prijancic. Koshubov is quick. He's been one of the best VIs on offer here in Sakhalin. Prijancic, though, capable of some top performances, but this is good from Koshubov, and he will indeed take this one. He was the favourite, and he didn't disappoint. Choosing the red course. First winner on that side. There he is. I won't say fresh from victory, but certainly with a victory to his name. Koshubov just catching his breath. Go into another VI versus standing. This time we're switching it around. Frantsev on the left-hand side as you look. Bib number 3. Alabiev. Exactly the same time deficit as Prijancic did in the last heat. We'll see if he can make that good. As we saw earlier, two Russians this time against each other, as we saw two Americans a little bit earlier. 27-year-old Frantsev on the left. 29-year-old Alabiev from Dimitrov on the right. And away goes Frantsev. He will need his guide, Ivan Agranovsky, to give him the best possible line, the best possible instructions, all the time knowing Alabiev is coming. 6 to go. 3, 2, it's going to be tight. A real lunge to the line, but Frantsev, he's in front. And Frantsev takes the victory. But that was a good effort from Alabiev, really closing in on his compatriot. Next up, Kush and Kiveri. Kiveri, the man who has to go second here. His job will be to chase down the 21-year-old from Switzerland, from Neuchâtel. Yeah, the pair of them just concentrating. Got to be disciplined in a head-to-head racing. Stick to your own game plan. Always easier to be behind to begin with because you can see exactly where your opponent is. Robin Kush will always have that fear of where is Santeri Kiveri. Well, Kush going well. Wasn't the biggest advantage out the gates, but it's an advantage enough that he keeps for now. 3 to go. Kiveri starting to close. Oh, this will be tight. Oh, Kush just gets there.
Победу одержал спортсмен из Швейцарии Робин Хиш.
He's felt the full effort of it.
The winner.
I think Kush just about gets there. Oh, it's real tight, you know. Real tight. Kush went down holding himself after the race. Kivali just wanted to have a chat with one of the officials, so neither of them exactly what we call happy. But it is Kush that picks up the victory that time. Now, Alexei Merkushin has some graft to do here. Thomas Grocha has a healthy advantage out of the gate here. The only single-leg skier on offer here in Sakhalin, and away he goes. Merkushin, single-arm amputee against Grocha, 26-year-old, keeping Merkushin at bay. Final 6. Oh, big fall, Merkushin. Grocha will take this. He won't know what's happened behind him. But Merkushin goes down hard. We hope that he's okay, but Grocha takes that one unopposed in the end. That's the first dramatic fall at speed in the contest. Grocha just having a look back up the mountain. All he can do, he's got to get back down to get back up. Oh, he just straddles that gate, doesn't he? 7 from home. Straddles one, destroys another. In fact, his ski ends up on the blue course. Now, Alexandrov, it's only a fractional weight. Pagnoli with Andrea Ravelli. As we've seen before, these two are very quick. World and Paralympic success for Bertagnoli. And he's going to whip through this very neatly indeed. Alexandrov giving it his best. Yell as they come through the line. So all of those pretty much went where you would expect. Interesting battle between Walsh and Kirker in there. Kush and Kivali was pretty tight as well. Alexandrov not happy with something. Bertagnoli being ushered back down the mountain. Actually, race finished. Carry on, there's more to do. Just saw Merkushin to the right-hand side a moment ago, unaided, so he's probably all right. Making his way down there, he is. So that is the 8 runs for the men's contest. Victories in that one for Salka, Fiel, Walsh, Rakoshibov, Hrantsev, Kush, Grocha and Bertagnoli. go, as I mentioned, running through the results. Now that has Merit Pelly as victor, but I'm not sure that's correct. Maybe I stand to be corrected. See spectators, kids just enjoying themselves during the short changeover. Quite a few gathered at the bottom of the run just to offer their support for the athletes. Up at the top, everybody else just hanging around waiting for the athlete to make it back to the start area. Is always the issue with the head-to-heads. Once you've run one, you've got to get down to the bottom and go again, which of course includes the ski lift here in Sakhalin, and then a little bit of a trek across from where the ski lift midway station is. Let's look back at Marcus Salker and Murat Pelli in the opening run. This might give us a clear answer as to who won. Thomas Walsh, Spencer Wood and Andrew Kirker all involved here in the parallel event. Kirker and Walsh went against each other. Wood went up against Thomas Phil. This is RBF, Kush and Kivri. Colin Kush just taking that. So again, if you're just joining us, the skiers having to make it back up to the top. It's not the quickest of journeys. Trying to get it turned around as fast as possible. Colin Kush battling with the course on his way down. Thomas Rocha against Alexei Makushin. Makushin, the first real DNF. Spencer Wood may have missed a gate, but he didn't straddle one and go out in the dramatic style that Makushin did. No bother for Thomas Rocha. He just kept on going, unaware of what was happening behind him take his victory. And there it is. Look, just on the right-hand side of your screen. Look at the ski. Goes flying off. Ends up coming to rest against one of the blue gates. Bertagnoli. No difficulties for him. He was always a stitch too fast for Sergei Alexandrov. So we're just on hold at the moment, waiting for a restart of the heats round. First run has been and gone. 50% of the work done. It's a long old climb to the top of the podium, isn't it? That's what the course looks like from the aerial view here in Sakhalin. Great shots being brought to you every day of this World Para Alpine Skiing World Cup. Huge well done to the team behind the scenes for that. And that's the drop. Start to finish. So we're going to take a short break here. We're just going to take you around at about with some shots up on the mountain, but we will have a short break. I'll be back with you in a couple of moments.
Эти-то остались. Мы думали, они улетели.
So back at the start gates we are then. On the right hand side, Marcus Salka. Still waiting for confirmation as to whether he won or did not win in the first run. He definitely showed Murat Peli on the screen. There was a little confusion as to who actually won the race. So Salka now on the right hand side. Peli on the left. Salka just shouting something to one of the coaches back there. I'm led to believe we are pretty much ready to get back underway. These two just itching to get out the gate, as we are to see them. Field just going through some final changes and checks. Getting all stretched out. These two being asked if they're ready. Indeed they are. So Salka versus Peli. Head to head. Starts up. Salka motoring, and Peli just smacking the floor with his outrigger. I think his frustration there for everyone to see, and he's off course. Salka crosses the line. And that's victory for Marcus Salka. Excuse that said Murat Peli qualifies, because categorically he does not. Now then, Wood against Field. The return around in this one. Field got down quickest in the first run. Hit the line in the first run first. Big encouragement for Spencer Wood. These two pretty much out exactly the same time, and Wood came with the use of the two ski poles as opposed to Thomas Field's one, trying to get a little traction out of the gate. This is tight again. He's got the speed through these final three. Looks like Phil has the advantage.
Thomas Phil from Switzerland, B5, the winner.
just feel just being dragged up to the top on one of the scheme appeals that we have here. Interesting ride up, it's not too far. So, contrary to what the screen said, it was feel that advances. Spencer Wood is still at the bottom looking on. So too Murat Peli, so clearly a little gremlin in the system. Now Kirker versus Walsh. It's quite a long delay for Walsh, isn't it? Can he catch Andrew Kirker? Walsh certainly hit the line first last time out. He's got quite a lot to do, but he is motoring today. I asked Thomas Walsh earlier if he fancied this, and he said he did. And that much is obvious. Walsh qualifies. So Kirker goes out. With Kozhubov and Prajancic. Kozhubov, very good in the opening race of their heat. Prajancic has that long wait. Is it enough for Prajancic to be able to close down, or is the Kozhubov going to dominate this second run as well? He's doing all right as he goes past a section of Russian supporters. This is another steady one for Kozhubov, and through he goes. Doing the double. Next up then, Frantsev and Alabiev. Alabiev's just waiting. Frantsev on the right side. Got to the line first in their first run. Alabiev poised, Frantsev poised. Just a short delay for these two since the last race. It's all part and parcel of it. Made to wait that little bit longer as well. There's a nod there from the pair of them. That would suggest they've been asked if they're okay. Frantsev goes. And again, Roman Alpinovsky just off the shot to the right-hand side. The guide starting to the side of the start gate. Fancy Frantsev will progress. Into those final three, and he's across the line. Frantsev has a look back. That should be enough for Frantsev. Kivri on the left. Kivri and Kush then. 10 and 7. And it's number 7 that comes out first then. Kivri was pretty tight in the first run. And for these relative youngsters, just 21 Kush, just 18 Santri Kivri, which probably explains him dancing around at the winners' ceremonies every night. He's certainly enjoying himself on and off the skis. Through the line they come. Kush should be the man to progress here. Thomas Grocha, barring a fall, should find himself comfortably into the next stage here. Makushin not finishing the first of his runs, so that means he has to hope that Grocha goes out here. And if he goes further than Grocha, he would win by virtue of his bib number being higher. Look at that, there you go. Talk about somebody who's read the rules. But Makushin isn't going to get his wish, and Grocha is going to advance quite easily indeed. Socha will go through, and we'll have the final run of the 8 heats here for the men. Remember, the women's event already into semi-final stage. We'll be at quarterfinals for the men next. Bertagnoli comfortable in the first run. I wouldn't expect Alexandrov to catch him in this one either. Certainly Alexandrov has to a lot of para-athletes. A fascinating story as to how they find themselves in the para-sporting world. Double leg amputee due to a climbing accident. Here, fighting against a world and Paralympic standard athlete, Bertagnoli, whistling through, and that's as comfortable as we're going to see in this round. Well done to Alexandrov. Not all of the other athletes have made it through unscathed or without missing gates. At least he's done that in 2 successive runs. So Bertagnoli and Ravelli will make their way back up to the top. That is them safely into the next stage. So no huge surprises in this part. You see the snowmobiles turning up. There's some long ropes attached to the back of them, and the skiers are hitching a lift. Now, unfortunately, somebody who's not going to hitch a lift up to the top for the next stage, but it's fortunate for us because we get to share some time together. Andrew Kirker, hello.
Hi, happy to be here.
What happened in your run?
In my run, coming into that the first run in the red course, there's that knoll right there at the end, and I got a little bit of air off that knoll, and I just pressured my ski a little bit too late in the turn. I could hear Thomas catching up to me behind, and so I tried to get a little bit of extra pressure into the turn, and when doing that, especially over a knoll, I got a little bit of air miss the next gate, and that gave me a 2-second disadvantage going into the next course. But I mean, racing against a teammate like that, you're just happy one of you is moving on. And neither of you are hurt.
We'll dig deeper into that side of it in a second. From a skier's perspective, how different is it to be allowed to do this head-to-head as opposed to just racing on your own and hoping to God that you are the quickest over the line? This time it's different, isn't it? You can see, like you said, you could feel Thomas Walsh coming. It's a different feeling altogether, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's a different feeling, and it's a almost different sport altogether. The fact that they make it head-to-head just makes it so much more exciting, not only for, viewers, but also for yourself when racing on the course. And honestly, I'm super excited to watch this, and I know that it's going to come down to the end, and it's really going to come down to the wire with some of these competitors here at the very end.
Would you have this event more often?
Oh yeah, as much as possible.
Immediately, didn't even have to think about that.
Yeah, of course. Parallel GS, parallel slalom. I say, give it all to us. I mean, I think this is a very exciting. This is a fun way, kind of like the way GS and slalom could be more exciting, and other than the traditional way. And right now, I'm really looking forward, especially Team USA. I think Thomas Walsh is really going to put one down coming into here. This is something that he's been really hyped up and really prepared for, and the fact that he's going to be facing Bertagnoli is something that I know he's a little bit worried about. But some of these competitors, man, especially coming into the final heat right here, it's whoever can hang on, especially coming into that last knoll and coming into that first pitch.
And isn't it great that we've devised, as a sport, but we've devised a way of including all 3 of the impairments, from the VI athletes to the sitting to the standing, and going and saying, right, you guys are all friends on the tour, and now you get a chance to compete against one another.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Honestly, it's fantastic. And like I said, it's what they've been trying to make this sport into. We want to make it an all-inclusive sport. We even want to make it with the factoring systems where you can race against able-bodied competitors. We can make it all-inclusive. We can just all be intertwined as one competitive family. And that's hopefully a good step forward with this parallel slalom event in that aspect.
Into the next round we go then. That draw says Salka Phil, Walsh, Kozubov, Frantsev versus Kush, and Rocha versus Bertagnoli. So that's the draw that was on the screen a moment ago. Phil to the right, Saka to the left. Now it really is into the exciting stages. So
and both their factors are very similar. So you're going to see them leaving out of the start at about the same time here, which is actually, it looks like Thomas Fiel has a 2-second disadvantage. But.
Yeah, well, 158 is allotted to him. He has to wait, and away they go. And that seems like an eternity, even though it's not. It's Salka that gets away quick. He's already picked up a victory here at this World Cup venue. So too has Thomas Field. Both of them been looking very good
and
here.
He just made that. He just slowed down on that one. Oh, Field misses that. That last knoll, especially on that red course, man. It's a doozy. Let me tell you, it got me.
Thomas Field missing out on gate. So Salka takes the spoils this time around. 1-0.
So it's so looking at both these two different courses, that red course right there has a little bit more of a knoll when you get down towards the bottom, and it's actually a faster course. So you're going faster with more of a knoll, so you really have to absorb that bump or be prepared with ski direction as you come over it, which is making it difficult for a lot of these racers, especially when you're head to head, because you got to not only focus on yourself, what you're doing in the course and how you're managing your ski, but also the other person and how close they are behind you or how far in front of you they are.
This man on the left-hand side of the screen, obviously you know so much about him. I mean, you spend all the time together here on the circuit. How much has he improved in the last year to 18 months?
You know, just maturity-wise and just overall professionalism, substantially. And like when it comes to skiing and when it comes to his entire like downhill mentality, he is becoming a lot better. Not only in the speed events and not only like in his personal life, but also when it comes to skiing, because he's got the right mindset and he's focusing on doing the right things. And you know what? That on its own is making him a substantially better skier.
Dress sense, that hasn't got any better, has it?
Yeah.
He still wears the same terrible clothing. Thomas Walsh on the left. He's going to absolutely kill me for that one tomorrow. Walsh on the left, but Kozhibov on the right. He's a prime example, Kozhibov, of the fact that Parasport is open not only to each impairment but to ages as well. This guy's 47. He's still throwing himself down a mountain and better than some around.
And crushing it, yeah. He's an extremely competitive skier, and he works very hard. It's easy to see when he's at the top, getting ready and preparing to start. He works hard. Oh, here we go. This is going to be a close race. Valerie's going to be leaving out of the start a bit sooner than Walsh is.
Double
Here we
medalist
go.
in Sochi, so
Walsh.
a gold medalist on the right-hand side. Walsh has already dispatched one Paralympic champion. He'll have to do it again if he's to progress any further. And Kozhibov leads the way. He's being guided, of course, as one of our VI skiers. Walsh coming.
Watch this last knoll. Let's see how he handles this last knoll. Ooh, and he got a little bit low, but he might just cut in front of Walsh. There he is.
But Kozhibov will take that. 0.38 is what the difference is now. A round of applause belongs to the Russian. Walsh certainly closing the gap. And even despite that difficulty in the final section, as Andrew Kirker was explaining, Kozhibov, despite his impairment, hanging on in and taking victory against Walsh.
But again, remember that red course is faster than the blue course. So as long as you're able to manage that knoll there at the end, you're going to be victorious on that red course. Do you know if they're doing another head-to-head, if he's racing Rakozabov again on different courses? Are they switching courses?
I believe they switch again.
They're switching again? All right, so Thomas still has a chance of coming back and trying to achieve victory on that red course, which with his impairment, which is pretty minimal, he's going to be able to absorb that knoll there at the end, which is going to give him a bit of an advantage on that faster and
the giveaway
faster
is
course
that
on the red
they're
course.
all being dragged up back to the top, so out of the window. But it does state in the rules there's 2 runs in this round as well. So Frantsev on the right-hand side. Robin Kush on the left. Robin always strikes me as one of those skiers on the circuit. He's just got pure determination, hasn't he? He took a massive whack to the face this week. He's back, and he just throws himself at every course that's in front of him, doesn't he?
He's a good kid, and he's very aggressive. You can see it in his skiing style, how he likes to smack these gates. And right there, it didn't pan out super well for him. You know, I suffer from that
same affliction, yes.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit too much aggression, and right here it didn't pan out for him, unfortunately.
Francev gets there, the scream from Kus, the delight from the Russian. 1-0 goes to home advantage. Well, he's got rid of Santeri Kiveli as Robin Kus, which was no easy task to do. Santeri is in pretty decent form in the World Cup this season.
And you know, he still has another chance. They're switching courses here. They're switching courses, and so he's going to be on the quicker course, and he's going to get a chance to kind of get ahead or get that advantage. It looks like he might have.
I'm not sure he's been fully functional all day. He's been holding his right side and sort of wincing in pain at the end of each and every run so far. You may not have seen that with you being in the competition, but every time he's hit the line, as he gets to the bottom, he's either crouched down and yelled, or he's been holding on to himself. So perhaps not a fully fit Robin Kus. Now you can see he's clearly struggling with something.
Well, his crash from the other day, I imagine, is still quite a bit of an ailment. I can speak from experience. He's probably quite a bit sore.
Now, Bertagnoli on the right-hand side, Grocha on the left. And this is, for me, something like this race is parasport in a nutshell. VI on the right-hand side, single-leg skier on the left-hand side. If you just turn the TV on, this epitomises what parasport is all about.
It really does. And Giacomo is just so fast and such a competitive skier. I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how fast he's able to push this course.
It's a great division. He and Matt Marcoux as well, of course, just against each other. That is a phenomenal watch on its own.
It really is. All right, Thomas Grochar looks like he's actually doing really well here. They're sitting right close, and with this final null, we're going to see how that handles.
Oh, he's absolutely annihilated one of the gates. You can see the frustration from the Austrian. He puts his hands to his head. And the disappointment, as Andrew was saying, they were fairly close. I think Bertagnoli had a slight advantage with about 4 gates to go, and then all of a sudden, as you look back up to the left-hand side, you notice that Grocha is no longer on the course. So it's victory for Bertagnoli this time out.
It's kind of a bit confusing, especially when you're racing a VI, because you can hear the guide skiing next to you, and you can hear the racer, and so your mind is trying to compute what's going on beside you as you're racing down the course, trying to smash these gates. You know,
do you think Grocha's trying to translate Italian and see what on earth's happening? But I think he were better served just trying to get himself down there, and he's
right here. You can see just bam, and then right here through the panel. Yep. That so he just got a little bit too tight on that gate, and it threw him off. So his pressure, instead of being right beside or right above the gate so that he could stay on line, was a little bit under, and that just forced his body to kind of rotate, and he had to recover, and the only way he could recover was through the panel, unfortunately.
Do you think that was that Spencer Wood watching back his own run, or watching the live broadcast in the background there a moment ago?
Probably Spencer Wood giving a good listen to us right now, and he's probably actually looking at the start list. That way he can see positioning and who's going to be competing against who going into the semifinal heat.
He was explaining to me yesterday that his mum enjoys listening to me commentate on his races. Well, there you go. He's put up a good fight here this afternoon against Thomas Field.
I can attest, you're fun to listen to. Exactly, yeah.
If only my wife thought the same. I'd probably spend more time at home, I suppose. There we are. There's the course from top to bottom. Just while we have an extra couple of minutes while we reset, what's it been like here in Sakhalin? Obviously, it's the first time the World Cup has been able to be broadcast this season. As a venue, marking out of 10?
As far as professionalism and how everything is set up, it's a 10 out of 10. This is it's pretty awesome. There's a little bit of confusion today going into this new sport and this new event that a lot of people haven't had a chance to really compete in. But as far as everything else is concerned, the professionalism and the kindness of the overall just everyone that's in the area and how they're able to treat Paralympic sport and how they're able to show up and be so professional. It's a 10 out of 10. Like, it doesn't really get much better than it is
there's
here.
all manner of volunteers doing all sorts of jobs down the bottom. And it's not just a handful, is it? It's a lot of people have come to help this event.
So there are translators set up with every team, and there are buses every morning on request to help get people to and from the venue, and there are free activities that you get to do on days off. You know, they're taking us to go fishing, taking us snow machining, showing us what it's like. That
wasn't offered in my hotel, I'll tell you that.
That's what it's like to, they're showing us what it's like to live in Sakhalin, and they're showing us the best of the best here, and it's been really well organized, and it's a lot more than what we usually get on the World Cup circuit. Usually on the World Cup circuit, you get to hear your anthem at the awards ceremony. You stand out in the snow, you get first, second, third place. It's awarded to you. But here, it's made into a big thing, and the sport is taken very professional, and the local crowd shows up, and they're extremely supportive. And
there is a live disco down the bottom there, pretty much as well. It's an entertaining part of the course, I must admit. So yeah, good. I was trying to ascertain what the athletes themselves had thought, 'cause that's my opinion as well. I think this as an event has been exceptionally well run, and it's actually a shame that it's already into its final day. We could have done with, we're not going to sugarcoat it, we could have done with 20, 30, 40 more athletes taking part here to give us a real air of competition. But that wasn't the case. You were explaining the other day that the Japanese nationals is currently on, so despite being one of the closest nations to this island, actually they're not here, but there is a decent reason for that. And obviously, travel at the moment is a big talking point with various viruses doing their thing. So obviously we're disappointed in a way, but there are some understandable reasons as well. Now, back up at the start gate, we have our two gentlemen, which are Salka and Field. This time Salka on the right-hand side, Thomas Field on the left. Salka took the first race. Do you expect Marcus Salka to go all the way to the final in this?
I do. I expect him to at least make top 4. And I think Salker, with his classification and his overall ability and the way he's skiing this course, he's skiing it very well, and he's doing a really good job up there. And I'm really hoping that Thomas is going to be able to put one in there. And I expect Giacomo to definitely be going into the finals as well. Giacomo is, so far, the only person I've seen really get super close to skiing this as well as him would probably be Thomas and Salker. And right now, I don't think we saw Giacomo really put it down the hill yet. I don't think we saw him really get after it.
No, you get the sense there's another gear to come from Bertagnoli, but we'll assess that when he needs it. If he has to find that extra gear, of course, he might just be too comfortable without it. But Salka will know that he's going to get tested by a man who's fresh from victory yesterday. That was good in the men's standing, that all of a sudden Arthur Bauchet wasn't just winning every race. We've had episodes of the World Cup in the last couple of years where we've had a dominant male and a dominant female. So far this season, Marie Bauchet and Arthur Bauchet have started to feel a little bit of pressure from some new names, some old names, some returning names.
Well, there's, classifications and the shape of the hill, and there's a lot of different factors that play into it, and that's why you got to race a lot of different races, and you got to compete in a lot of different scenarios to prove who is the best and when you are the best. Sometimes certain conditions with certain disabilities, don't work as well, and certain conditions with other disabilities work much better. So when it comes down to it, there's certain disabilities that are going to be better on a course like a parallel slalom, and there's certain ones that are going to be better on a downhill. Looks like it's fixing to kick off, and it looks like Marcus Salker gets a little bit of an advantage right here.
So the Austrian will be delighted to go out first. Will he be delighted when he hits the line? Feel with work to do from here. Austria versus Switzerland, a place in the semi-finals up for grabs. Advantage is Salka's at the moment. Can't see Phil pulling this one back from here.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough for him to be able to catch up. But you know what? If he messes up on this knoll right here, which he didn't, he managed that and he handled it very well. Phil goes down.
Yeah, of the two that were trying too hard, it was actually the man who was way back. So Thomas Phil takes a spill. Marcus Salka will enter the next stage of the competition. There you can see the vehicles queuing up to take the athletes back up to the start. It's a speedy turnaround, this process. We'll have the women's semis. Now, just take a look here. Thomas Hill just straddles the gate, goes right through the panel in the middle, and he ends up on the deck.
You know, that's what happens, you know, especially when you can see someone so far ahead of you and you're really trying to catch up, because you go a little bit more direct at those panels and you try to cut off the distance in between them, and when you try to cut off the distance, you don't use quite as much of the fall line, and so the gate works against you when you smack it. You know, it just knocks you off balance that much easier.
And I suppose for athletes that take part in a sport which is predominantly one after one after one, this whole race against each other brings completely new elements to your mindset as well. The discipline that is needed. You know, you take Formula One or athletics where you're running around a track. You have to stay disciplined in not only the idea of what you set out to do, but then where do you find that extra bit? You know, you make a mistake in a Formula One car, good night, but goodbye, it's all over. It's the same here, isn't it? You can see who you want to catch, but if you take away from your game plan that you had set, that can lead to disastrous consequences.
No matter what you do, it's still you versus the course, not you versus another person. And it's easy to get distracted, especially when there's someone right beside you. And it looks like Valerie Rakozabov's going to be getting about a 3-second start here, but I think Thomas on this red course might be able to catch up. Either way, it's going to be really close when it comes down to the line in the finals when they cross that finish line.
This will be a Thomas Walsh 138% effort. But this is one of those you can sense he's going to throw absolutely everything at this.
He's going to
regardless.
have to.
Well, he has to, of course. Yes.
He has to if he's going to win here.
You can see him itching to get out of that gate. Rakozabov goes then, guided by Yevgeny Guroyev, and those instructions as a VI guide over a short distance and a very quick course must be very, very complicated, because he's got to constantly look back. People forget how hard it is to be a guide. Walsh is coming, he's batting aside every gate, but he's just not going to make up the gap, is he? No, not quite.
Not quite. 5/10 back. Unfortunately, Walsh moves out.
It's a top effort. Really is, but another solid performance from the aging Russian. The 47-year-old goes through.
Ooh, and it was really close there coming over that final. Noel Rakozabov just got so late on his turns and almost missed it.
So there is the victor this time around. He advances, as does Marcus Salka. I think that means those two face off against each other in the next stage. We'll have Frantsev and Kush getting themselves ready. There's Frantsev. And cutting a rather relaxed figure there, Valerie. Just having a bit of a lean against the air fence. Trying to catch his breath.
Trying to catch his breath, yeah. He's taking it easy after a lot of turns like that. That's pretty tiring.
To social skiers, what's the physical difference between actually competing and perhaps just? I mean, you know, I was here on Sunday and I was amazed at the volume of just casual skiers out here, just sort of meandering their way down. There's a massive difference in the fitness that needs to be had to be a professional skier.
So I think the average racer takes about 6 Gs through their ski and through their body while they're skiing. So. You take your average skier, and I don't think they take more than 1 G through their body when they're out skiing. You know,
mine's -7, so I'm okay.
Well, you got to get on skis to make that happen.
You've been watching me walk up the hill every morning. For those watching, it's a 24-minute walk uphill just for me to get here, and I'm not in the condition that Andrew Kirker and Thomas Walsh are in. I can tell you that absolutely now. I am by the time I've got here, though.
But you know, it's on that factor right here, especially when it comes to parallel slalom in an event just like this, your conditioning plays a huge part into it, because you know, usually you get out there and you get ready and you do 1 downhill run, 1 Super G run, or you do 2 GS runs in a day, and you do a bunch of free ski runs.
There's a big gap in the middle of those as well.
And there's a big gap, exactly. There's plenty of rest. In this situation, you're on your legs, going up, racing down, on your legs, going up, racing down, going up, racing down. So conditioning plays a huge factor into it, especially when it comes to managing like the knoll right there at the end.
When we get to the semi-final stage, I'll read you the list of people that have qualified, and I'll tell you to who is breathing heaviest. You can tell me. You'll know a bit more about their conditioning. You can tell me who will be breathing heaviest.
All right, Robin Kusch gets a little bit of an advantage coming out of the gate here, and then Frantsev has to catch him.
Ivan Frantsev picked up one victory. Will he knock out Robin Kusch? It's actually Kusch that has the disadvantage of 2.33. So Frantsev goes first. Kusch starts to come for him.
It's going to be tough for him to catch Frantsev right here. As long as Frantsev keeps it cool over that final knoll right here, it looks like he might have this.
Always a sport that has to be watched to the very end.
That
and a
final
little wide.
knoll. Did that ruin it for him? Oh, close.
Frantsev is safe in the end, but that gap goes from over 3 seconds to less than half. So good effort from Robin Kusch. After 10 gates, it didn't look like Kusch had much going his way.
Right here, you can see Frantsev on the flats. He's just getting a little bit later and a little bit later racing down, and that's what almost cost him the race.
He will advance into the semi-final stage. By my reckoning, he faces off against the winner of the next one, but can Rocha come up with something big? He has to find something huge, because Bertagnoli, as we were saying, doesn't actually look yet like he's found his top gear, and he's certainly looked quick, and Rocha also has a disadvantage of 165.
I think the only way he's going to be able to catch Giacomo is if Giacomo messes up right here. Giacomo's been skiing very, very well, and I don't think he's quite had to take it to 5th gear yet.
There are some skiers you can look out onto a start sheet and you recognise names and you say to yourself, he's capable of DNF.
Yep.
This guy's capable of this lady's capable. Bertagnoli isn't one of them fits into that bracket now anymore for me. I think he very often it's just a solid, quick performance. Sometimes it's a little slower if somebody like Mark Moku is racing against him, but he's never one that you have down as a DNF, and he's just not going to here. Rocha giving everything, but Bertagnoli comfortably into the next phase of the competition. I was mentioning during some of the VI competitions, and he absolutely nailed it on the head. Somebody like Miroslav Haraos, who one moment looks absolutely superb, and then the next is flying off the course in the very next day. So he's one of those that sort of fits in that latter category.
Yeah, and when you were watching the replay of Giacomo right there, you could see that he wasn't quite pressuring his ski, and he wasn't quite putting a whole lot of pressure into it, because when you're pressuring that ski around every single turn, you do it in the fall line, and gravity works with you. You have less you're using your side cut to accelerate yourself out of the turn, using all of gravity to push yourself down the hill. And you can see right here, so you watch Salker right there, pressure at the gate, even a little bit above the gate right there. Pressure at the gate, and that is what's helping him to stay in the lead right here. Is you know how we talked about earlier, how you're skiing against the course, you're not skiing against the competitor beside you. That's what these racers are doing currently, and it's panning out very, very well for him. You can see right here, he's fighting it and getting a little bit late. You can see Thomas right there, and so he's getting late, and that's when that top gate threw him off a little bit, and he wasn't able to recover, and that's how he ended up going through that panel. Thomas right here skied very well. You can see pressure right at the panel. Boom. Right, that was a little under, but pressure right at the panel, and that's what makes him so fast. Unfortunately, he just wasn't quite able to stay ahead of it.
And again, people perhaps who don't ski on a competitive level, they don't realise the difference that a fraction of a second makes turning into that gate. How much the impact of hitting that gate can actually take time away from you.
What is there? There's 24, there's 25 gates here. So if you pressure above the gate and you use 1/100th or 1/10th of a second more of gravity to help you accelerate down this course over 25 gates, you're getting nearly a second.
Yep.
But
getting it wrong goes the opposite way as well.
Getting it wrong goes the opposite way, exactly. So that's why pressuring, and so it's the easiest way to put it is a straight line down the mountain is the fastest way to go. And if there was a gate in the way and you add pressure above that gate, you're using gravity to push you across the hill. But if you're putting pressure under that gate, you're working against gravity to move you across the hill, which is how you slow down. So when it comes to the course, and especially like, you know, with factors and with this being a new discipline, there's still a lot to work out with everything. But right now, it seems pretty close and it seems pretty fair, and it's fun to watch.
It certainly is our chance to now watch the ladies have a go at this. The Americans might not be able to win in the men's event any longer because you're all out. However, you still have one contestant ready in the women's event. Laurie Stevens will go against Binia Smith. That's the second of the two semi-finals. The first is an all-Russian affair, though. Voronchikina on the left, Kohorasheva on the right. I've been really impressed with Barbara Voronchikina this year. Her performances and results on the circuit certainly showed an improvement in her skiing, and she's still pretty young, just 19.
She's a very good racer, extremely good racer, and she's only going to get better. You know, she's so young. She's just entering the circuit, and everybody knows it, and everybody's watching her. They've got their eyes on her, and she's a very good competitor. I expect her to pull away with the win right here. But with the 1.9 disadvantage, Anastasia might just get it. I mean, you know, there's still a bit of work to be done here, and I expect Varvara to maybe take the gold today. We're going to see. I was talking to Laurie earlier, and it's all about just staying consistent and moving down the course.
She is flying.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt about this. Absolutely flying, Voronchikina.
Yep.
Well, Konasheva's 28. She's been on the circuit on and off for quite a while, actually. She's got wins at World Cups back in 2016 to her name, but not anywhere near the speed of young Voronchikina.
Watch her right here. So right there, she got a little bit late, but then she was able to move it back up the hill. So right there, pressuring the ski at the gate or above the gate, and that's what helps to give her that little bit of speed. And it helps you to stay ahead of the next panel. So wanting to be on edge, ready to turn before you get to that gate is a very prime piece of racing. And if you're able to stay ahead of it, then you know, you minimize the chances of going through panels, of panels throwing you off balance, or of crashing.
Is it something that you can naturally have, that ability to read a course and push at the right time? Or is it something that the coaches are constantly trying to mould into you?
That's learned. It's learned, and it's something that's molded into you over time. Speed is something that is inherent. People sometimes know how to just gain speed, how to gather speed, where to get speed, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that you're going to be the fastest.
I was born sloth.
All right.
My football days will tell you that as well. Laurie Stevens on the left-hand side. Binia Smith has quite a disadvantage to start with, but it will be Stevens.
I was talking with Laurie earlier today, and she's going to try her best to not put too much pressure into the ski, because if you add too much pressure, it does the exact opposite of what I was just saying. It's going to throw you through the panel, and it's going to pop you up, especially being a sit skier, because you don't have two skis to absorb the pressure. You only have one.
I imagine she's itching to get going in this, because she's had to race against herself the entire time we've been here in Sakhalin, and even she was sort of saying it's not quite the same, is it? It's more of a practice, despite being out there, and obviously you're sort of picking up World Cup points, and they're not maximum either, so it is a good practice. This is good for her to be able to say, I came to Sakhalin and I really pushed myself here on the last day.
This is an event that really gets her blood pumping and really gets her heart pounding and ready to race, which for Laurie, especially being on the circuit for so long, is kind of something that's a little bit, it's new to her, and it's a little bit unusual, but she really likes it. We were talking about that just a little bit earlier today.
So Schmidt, much the younger, but that also comes with the tag of being much more inexperienced. Stevens will have been under pressure numerous times. She has a fantastic record of always medaling at the Paralympics, which not every athlete can say, and that is a fantastic achievement. And still at 35, she's got a real hunger for the sport.
She does, and here she goes, pushing out of the start.
What can Stevens
hopefully
do then?
staying nice and consistent. Right now it's looking really good, using gravity to her advantage, and she's moving, using good edge angles and pressuring right at the gate or right above the gate. She's staying nice and consistent. I think Lori might be able to pull it off. Bigna's catching up, though. This final knoll is really going to play a huge factor into everything, especially being the sit. Oh, Lori, oh man, it's close.
This is going to be tight.
Right down
this is
to
going to
it.
be tight, and Laurie Stevens will get there.
Lori got it.
0.26.
0.2 of a second to give you an idea of how much time that is. That's 2 blinks. If you take 2 blinks right now, looking at your screen, that is how much she just beat her by. Such a tight race and such a tight course. That was pretty good. And Lori, so you could see her right there struggling, but she was preparing for this knoll. She was preparing for getting onto the flat so she could keep things nice and smooth and consistent. And now she's going to take that snow machine back up and get ready for the next heat. Her heart has got to be pounding right now. I bet you she's super excited.
I'm going to suggest these custom-made cuffs are not available in every retail store anywhere near here. But certainly, I mean, obviously, in terms of customization, obviously your monoski is coloured to your liking. We see some fantastic helmets and things like that. Is that just part of it? Does that kind of put you at home? Like I don't know. I have like pictures of my family in a scarf. They're my lucky charms, if you like. Is that the sort of thing that you guys are going for?
You know, it is, but also a little bit about making a name for yourself, gathering sponsors, and you know, that's a big part of what it is, becoming known and, you know, breaking away from the norm. That way people don't see you as just like another individual with a disability, but someone who can do something more out on the hill. And a lot of times, you know, people unfortunately kind of have that mindset towards individuals with a disability, and then you bring like a World Cup like this to town, and people, their minds get blown, and they're like, oh my goodness, you know, these skiers can ski better than I can. They ski totally differently than I do, and it's something that just blows a lot of minds. And you know, a lot of times that's what you're going for, is you're going for that recognition, so that you're not just another person.
I'm very lucky to have worked in 2 summer Paralympics and Olympics and 1 winter Paralympics, and you are absolutely spot on. An able-bodied person, as the correct terminology is these days, takes a look at somebody with an impairment or a disability, and we talk a lot in commentary about those that can't be seen. So somebody like yourself or Laurie, it's a visual impairment. You can take a look and go, right, okay, so there's a disability here. But for somebody like Arthur Bauchet, perhaps, it's not immediately apparent. Tommy as well.
Thomas,
you know,
Walsh, yeah.
it's not immediately apparent that somebody suffers day in, day out, and really has to work hard to be an athlete with an impairment that's perhaps more internal than external. No matter what the impairment, though, one of the things that fascinates people around the world is the level of training, the speed or the actual ability of the person, no matter what sport it is. You know, I ask anybody to go and watch things like para-table tennis. Absolutely fascinating sport, because you take people who are using their mouths to hold table tennis rackets, things like that. So just different sports around the globe all need different abilities.
It's a human spirit at work, is really what it is, and it's ever evolving, because we all want to get better, and until recently, you know, a lot of people didn't believe in us, but with more people that are believing in us and seeing what's possible, it's making it more possible for us to be even better than we were before. And that's something that stands out. You know, people that believe in you make a big difference.
Vronsakina will start with an advantage. This is a bit like having a winning lottery ticket, and the only way that you don't win the lottery is if you actually lose the ticket. Vronsakina is already miles ahead, has an advantage to start with, has been the quickest this week. The only person that's going to lose this run is her.
Yep.
And that's not happening. There we go. Vronsakina does indeed cross the line. Honosheva must have known that was always going to be a very, very uphill, downhill struggle.
Yes, for sure. Now, do you know who's moving into the next heat and who's going to be competing against who? I don't have the list with
So
me.
this is purely just semi-finals at this stage for,
Okay.
for the ladies. So Vronsakina, by all accounts, is now in the final, and she will take on Stevens or Schmidt. Now, Stevens obviously having an advantage of winning the first one, only just, which means this second race might be even tighter.
And now, to give you an idea, again, Lori, she hasn't had a chance to ski many courses like this. That was her first or second time being on this course and getting a chance to really ski a parallel slalom. So I expect to see her get a little bit faster and a little bit better every run, the more comfortable she gets in the course.
All of the coaches, just, I suppose this is a slightly different topic for you, but every World Cup we see all of these volunteers, we see the coaches. How imperative is it that we have volunteers, coaches, all mucking in and doing jobs up and down the course? You know, like I've seen you come off and immediately somebody's come running across this, whether it be a volunteer or a coach of another country. It really is a team effort, despite being from all different corners of the globe, isn't it?
It really is. And, you know, no one wants to see anyone else get hurt in a situation like this, and everyone wants it to be the best conditions that it can be. So when it comes to having slippers out there on the course, making sure that the course is prepared, or making sure that you're not injured if you do have a crash, or making sure that you're taken care of if you are injured, it makes a really big difference. And I know that they've been doing a really great job here in Sakhalin, because I actually was asked to help out with some of the medical staff and some of the on-hill ski patrol at the beginning of this, and I had a chance to go and speak with them and show them exactly how to manage a monoski if he was to be injured, and how to handle him and get an individual out of a monoski, which, again, like we talked about, for able-bodied individuals, it's not something that they can fully see and understand, and they don't always know how it works. So I explained to them and showed them the basis of it so that they were able to help us more. And, you know, honestly, they've been super open to every little bit of that, and it makes a huge difference.
I like to make sure that the people watching this, if it's their first ever time, they understand everything we say from a layman's perspective. You said slippers a little bit earlier on. Define what that means.
So slippers are people who go from the top of the course down to the bottom of the course, and they slide their skis sideways across the snow to get rid of any ruts or kind of imperfections in the hill, to try to make it as even of a competition as possible. But again, you know, the more a course gets run, the rougher it's going to be, and the more ruts are going to be there. And yeah, so right now, Lori Stevens is fixing to come out on the course, my teammate, and she's going to be facing off against Bigna Schmidt.
Yeah, big advantage as well. That 4 seconds will feel like a lifetime for Schmidt. Already 1-0 down. Can Stevens keep the composure, keep the speed that she showed in the first run? The snow is just starting to think about falling heavily. It's certainly covering the town of Juzhno-Sakhalinsk in the distance. We're losing visibility that way. And it's starting to hit the mountain. Here comes Schmidt. Stevens starts to lose.
Oh, it's going to be tight coming in here and right into the finish line again.
Oh, and I think Stevens gets this. She does fall behind. Now, that'll be interesting.
Just 500ths, though, so it looks like Lori still got her and is moving in.
We'll have to wait for clarification. The scoreboard suggests that Bigna Schmidt is the winner.
Ooh, it's gonna be a close call, just by hundredths either way.
Well, Bigna Schmidt being shown as the winner in the qualifier, so a tremendous effort in the second run. And that should mean that she progresses to take on Voronchikina now into the men's semi-finals.
Now, this snow is going to change the conditions, going to change a lot. So at the beginning of every single setup, you want to get your goggles right with the right color so that you can see the texture of the snow and you can see exactly where you want to turn with that rut. But with it starting to snow, it's going to change that a little bit. It's going to change the lighting and make it a little bit more difficult to see down the hill. So that's going to add another factor of difficulty coming into the finals here.
And of course, for athletes that are VI as well, a lot of them have explained over the years to me that the sun can make a difference, the snow can make a difference, so each and every run can be absolutely different based on your vision impairment to start with. This may affect their Kozhibov more. It may actually not affect him at all. It depends on his impairment altogether. But as you say, after maybe 10 or 15 minutes, the course itself can completely change.
Yes, it can. And, you know, that plays into the factors of each of these racers. You know, the more of a disability you have, the more advantage of a time you get on the course. And the less of a disability you have, the less of a disadvantage you have on the course, because you have the ability to be able to ski faster. So when it comes down to it, and then you take the conditions of the snow snow into play, and then you take your skis into play and your goggles into play. There's just so many different factors that can determine a victory.
Put you on the spot here. 3 out of the 4 semi-finalists in the men's events are VI. Why is that?
Probably a mixture of course and factors and speed. When it comes down to it, at most races, visual impairments usually get the 0 class because their ability versus their factor is a bit of an advantage, especially in a situation like this. But we're seeing Salker. It was 200ths out of the gate, right?
This is tight, and it looks like Salker has the edge here into the final 4 gates. There's the drop that Andrew's been talking about, and Salker will take the first one.
Yep.
0.8 the difference.
And you saw right there at the end where Kozubov just got bumped low on that little knoll right there, and that's what cost him the race.
Marcus finding the funny side of his little tumble towards the end. Well, I can confirm that both Stevens and Schmidt are going back up the hill.
Marcus, one more.
Plenty of opportunities to take photos, and as you were saying, Andrew, it's a brand new thing for some of these people. They perhaps would never have seen a para-sporting event here in Sakhalin. The course itself only opened in the 60s. It was the Soviets' first ever ski resort. So some of these people locally would never have seen a major competition like this. What they are seeing at the moment is 2 Russian athletes in the semi-finals. One has already been beaten in the opening run, that being Koshubov. On the left-hand side, Ivan Frantsev has the chance to stop Giacomo Bertagnoli, but that's not something that people find too easy to do. But again, 2 VI athletes going against each other. Frantsev will have an advantage in this opening run. The way Bertagnoli's been going this season in a straight VI race, you have to fancy him even with this deficit to start.
Oh yeah, Giacomo is just an amazing skier, and he's uber competitive. His emotions run him on and off the course. He just wants to win with everything he has, and I think that makes a huge difference when it comes to competition, especially when you can see your competitor in a situation like this.
Oh, Frantsev really wide and out. Frantsev loses his balance, desperately trying to stay ahead of the talented Italian.
And you can see Giacomo just start to take it easy right here. They notice that he went out, and so he just wants to cross the finish line, and they'll take it into the next round.
So, both of the Russian athletes get an X against them. Yeah, he's actually done well to maintain balance, to stay on his skis at that point.
Yep. Well, you can see right there, so it looked like he might have caught a little bit of a rut, or he caught his inside ski. He definitely got his body a little bit inside. So when you're thinking about ski racing, you want pressure to be through your skis. It helps you to keep your balance. So you want your shoulders and your body over the ski almost like a pendulum. And that helps you to be able to put pressure into your ski and to be able to control your ski if you don't pressure it too much. In that situation, he got caught a little bit inside, so he didn't have enough pressure through his ski, and it caught a little bit of a rut, and it just kind of pushed him out of position. And, sometimes that's just the way it goes. It's unfortunate.
And it's always the worst moment, isn't it? That's what we love about sport. Here is Ivan Frantsev. He gets an advantage out of the starting gate against potentially one of the world's top 2, if not top 3, VI skiers. And actually, it's one of his own mistakes to a degree that then costs him the chance of that victory. That's just how sport works, isn't it?
Well, not just that, but especially skiing in general. Because when it comes down to it, that experience plays a huge role, and it makes you a lot more comfortable. Like we talked about earlier, it's you competing against the course, not you competing against someone else. And those mistakes happen when you push yourself at the wrong time and in the wrong position. Sometimes, which I have definitely obviously, experienced this multiple times. Sometimes it's better to slow down a little bit and take it easy to get that gold medal, because sometimes you don't always have to push yourself 100% to win. And sometimes, the course or the conditions will fight back. And when it comes to it, that's when you lose, is when you mess up individually yourself. It's an individual sport, even though it is also a team sport,
Talking of the team sport, there's a great opportunity here. We're seeing some of the American coaching staff and team behind the scenes. How important are they? Talk to me about some of the roles that some of these guys and girls play, getting you ready and out there on the course.
Right there, that was our strength and conditioning coach, Ryan Polson, and he keeps us conditioned and ready for days like this, where you're heading up the hill and you're racing down, and then you're heading up and you're racing down 5 minutes later, and he keeps us in shape and he keeps us ready. And we have nutritionists that help us to gain weight in good ways and stay flexible the way we need to when we're competing. And then we have our physios, which really help with keeping us in shape at the hill. I know personally, my physio Millie, she's at the top, or our Team USA physio, Millie Brechheisen, which is German for crowbar, by the way, is at the top. And I can tell you, she can give you the crowbar. It is it's extremely painful, but it's something that is really able to help us out, especially like with my crash in the downhill and with a lot of these competitors, again, accidents happen. Falling happens, crashing happens, and being able to have a physio to put you back together, give you the right stretches that you need to do to get better for the next day, or to give you that massage when you really need it, to loosen up your muscles and to keep you functioning properly, makes a huge difference.
And also within hours as well, because it's not like you took a fall, and within 36 to 48 hours, you were back out competing. The average person in the street, where they bang their knee at work one day and they perhaps have a couple of days off, don't do anything. It's not like that for a sports person, is it?
It's really not.
You get hurt and you need to be out there the next day, so you have to find a way of not necessarily fully recovering, but coping.
You have to be able to cope, and you have to be able to get by. If you want to be the best in the world, which is why we're here to be the best in the world, and we're here to compete. You have to compete at a higher level, and you have to push yourself past the level that everybody else is. And when you think about it like that, and that hey, they're out there pushing themselves, and they didn't mess up. But, it doesn't matter that I did. I still have to push myself, and I still have to try to be better. Because sometimes if you take that one day off, that might be the difference between 0.2 of a second or 0.05 of a second, which loses you the victory.
Does it frustrate you to watch sports, and I'm going to use the American terminology for you here, this pains me a lot, but sports such as soccer, where players are seemingly injured pretty much every 35 seconds, does that, as an athlete who takes an almighty smash against the gate and then gets up and competes again the next day, does that irk you? Is that frustrating to watch?
It's a little frustrating, mostly because, honestly, for me, it's a sport of honor is what we do. There's a lot of honor. It's you competing against the hill, and you're trying to do your best at everything that you do. And I don't think victory should be achieved by making someone else look bad. I think victory should be achieved by making yourself look as good as you can. And when it comes to that, it irks my gird, or aches my pain a little bit when I see that. Yes, and I used to be a wrestler before I was a ski racer,
right.
And wrestlers live by that mentality superfluously. So here we go.
We'll come back to that. Salka against Kozyubov. He has a slight advantage. Can the Russian put the home nation into the final? Because you would fancy that Frantsev's job is much the harder, but at the moment he's off balance as well.
Yep, he got late, he got low, and he crushed that gate just a little bit too much. It definitely slowed him down, and I think that's Salker's going to take the victory right here.
We said right at the beginning, do we fancy Marcus Salka to be in the final? You said top 4. He's in the final.
Yep. And it's just the way that he's been skiing this, with his factor and the way this hill is, and just his overall technique skiing down this is great. Look at him. So right here, he's not putting too much pressure into his ski. He's taking just the right line, and he's just riding his side cut, being nice and smooth from top to bottom, and it's really good. Yeah, see, he's determined. You can see he's ready, but he's also breathing really hard. I can imagine he's starting to get a little bit tired.
The 28-year-old from Klagenfurt was the first male athlete on the live stream to go. He's going to be one of the last as well. Will he be the overall winner, or will this man on the left-hand side of your screen have something to say about that? Bertagnoli has looked good, not just today, but all the way through this Alpine World Cup edition here in Sakhalin. Frantsev had the chance to put in a big performance in the first run. He had the advantage out of the gate. This time he has the disadvantage, and to catch one of the world's best, this is surely a step too far.
Yeah, I think Giacomo's got this in the bag for sure. Giacomo and his guide Andrew, or Andre, they're crushing it together. It's blowing minds how quickly they are skiing down courses. And right now you can see him, like, he's not really pushing himself too hard. He's just kind of skiing and taking it easy, and he's going to pull in the victory right here.
So it's Bertagnoli with Andrea Ravelli.
Yeah.
There you go. Andrea Ravelli. His guide. It's a change of guide for those perhaps that tuned in last season. The guide that Bertagnoli used to have has gone. And it does happen. You know, Matt Marcoux, I think he's in the last 2 years into his third different guide. So
well,
it does have to happen.
You know, it's tough. It's tough to be able to travel on the circuit and to have someone who's fast enough to stay in front of you and tell you everything that's happening as you're about to ski into it. You know, someone who's comfortable enough and fast enough to stay in front of Giacomo. That's on its own is something quite difficult. Or to stay in front of Mac. You know, that's something that's quite difficult. Both these guys are
very challenge, isn't it?
Very good skiers in general.
Neil Simpson coming through for Great Britain in the VI section. He has his brother as his guide, but on occasions where his brother's not available, he has to have somebody else from the local club that he does. And like you say, if that person themselves has to be available to go to a World Cup or to go to the World Championship. So it isn't necessarily about just being part of the best athletes in the world. It's the opportunity as well, isn't it, to get to Sakhalin, then to get to Norway, and then to have the funds to be in Sweden as well.
Exactly.
So here is the final. So Bina Schmidt does indeed
move on. So
in fact, this is the third place contest. So it must have been Laurie Stevens into the final then, because this is definitely Kohorosheva on the left-hand side, as opposed to Veronkina. Now, Veronkina would be in the final, so this is Schmidt on the right-hand side. So I think that is Kohorosheva on the left.
Big Schmidt on the right.
That's what we're going to work with. Well, there's
Looks like
definitely Laurie there.
Yep.
And that's definitely Veronkina in the background. So, by method of deduction, those two must be our finalists. They're getting themselves ready. Oh, Schmidt just has a brief pause. Perhaps they aren't quite ready for us just yet. But it's,
to give everyone out there an idea of what these competitions are like, we've been in Russia for almost 20 days competing now, and we showed up a few days prior for training, and when it comes down to it, it takes a lot of funding and it takes a lot of hard work to be able to make that happen. It takes a lot of time as well.
So Schmidt and Kohorosheva, my eyes did not deceive me.
Looks like Kohorosheva gets a little bit of a disadvantage here with Bigna heading out of the gate first. And Bigna's on the faster course, that red course over there on the left. As long as she handles that knoll there at the end, I think she might be able to pull this one off.
How much does not being able to use ski poles affect you as a skier?
So pushing out of the start, instantly a few seconds slower. And
so in this instance as well, that's not going to help? Basically not being able to push out as hard as perhaps anybody else would. That 1.6 difference could almost immediately be gone.
Yep, that 1.6 seconds just with pole plants is going to make a difference for Big Na out of the start. Right there, that's where the advantage or the disadvantage is given. So Anastasia should be able to catch up with that as long as she skis a good flawless line for her disability.
In terms of being out on the course without poles, what sort of factors does that offer?
It's not a huge advantage. I don't think there's really any advantage to not having poles, honestly. When it comes to outriggers, there's advantage of balance and there's the advantage of movement, but I don't think there is an advantage to not having poles.
The disadvantage, as I've seen myself over the last few years with you guys, to having the outriggers is not getting them out of the way of the gates quick enough and being dragged back. That's got to be annoying.
Yep, it certainly is, and sometimes.
And I've seen that happen to the best of you. Like it's not just a lower level thing. You're Owen, yourself, Jesper, all the ones that are the top dogs at the moment in the world of sit skis. There's just that one event where you don't quite get that outrigger out quick enough, and it's too low as well, isn't it?
Well, as you're getting to the gate, you want to get as close to the gate as you can. You want to move your body into the gate while creating pressure into your ski, and sometimes moving in the outrigger just comes a millisecond too late, and so it hits the gate and knocks you off balance. And it happens a little bit to everyone. There's Ryan.
Does he aim to look that cool, or is that just an accident?
He just always looks cool.
Here we go then. Schmidt taking on Khorosheva.
Schmidt with the advantage, and it seems to be panning out quite well for her. I don't see Khorosheva catching up to her right here.
No, this is looking rather comfortable.
Igna's just nice and smooth coming across that finish line. She was ready and she was focused. That was awesome.
Easy as you go. The advantage 3.69. So Schmidt takes the first run. And immediately the guys on the old snowmobiles at the bottom trying to round everybody up. It's a case of getting them back to the top immediately. We saw the team event in Morzine last year. How entertaining was that from the skiers' perspective? Because I know from the outside it looked like a lot of fun.
It was so much fun, and just like events like this, parallel slalom, it's just so much fun to be able to go out there and to be able to compete with your team.
Doing it in the dark as well in Morzine as well, with the night lights and the fireworks.
With the night lights on, that was awesome. And it's awesome to see how much recognition Paralympic sports starting to get and how professional countries are starting to make it now. Russia, Morzine, those are two awesome events, and both of them had the parallel slalom, and the parallel slalom on its own is just so entertaining and so fun to watch. I think it brings a lot of good publicity to our sport.
So, Laurie Stevens, it's harder going uphill, isn't it?
It's a gravity sport,
especially when your dad pushes you back down again. That's horrific. Oh dear. Well, there you go. Thomas Walsh at the bottom.
Let's go, ladies.
And it's finals time in the ladies section. Just about see the pink helmet that belongs to Laurie Stevens on the right-hand side. Low down and set and ready to take on the youngster Vronchikina. So all the way to the final for Stevens. She's the sort of character that now she's in the final, there's only one ambition here, isn't there? Losing is not part of the psyche right now.
Losing's not part of it, so she's probably going to try.
And she doesn't care who's the other side of this gate right now, does she? She's not that sort of, you get a lot of sports where you look opposite a net in tennis and think, oh my God, it's Federer, or you look at the opposition that lines up against you in a running race, oh no, it's Usain Bolt. She doesn't have that characteristic.
No, not at all. For Laurie right now, it's her versus the course. But I do think being out here and being on this course with someone beside her makes her push herself just a little bit more. And like I said earlier, it's good for her. It makes her heart pound just a little bit. And Laurie, being such an experienced ski racer, needs a little bit of that. And I think it makes a big difference. He's going to have a 4.6 seconds lead coming out of the gate right here, and Laurie's pushing it. You can see that pressure. She uses her core to pressure her ski as she enters the turn, and with Lori being in front right there and Varvara having to chase her down, Varvara might just make a mistake right here. We'll see.
Bronchikina has gone very, very quickly over the opening section.
Very smooth and right into the finish line. Yep.
Does need a mistake from the Russian, and she's not going to get it. Bronchikina smashing away to victory. That is a big old win in terms of times. He's gone from a long way back to a fair amount in front as Bronchikina. There's nothing that the experienced Stevens could do. This youngster really impressing at the moment. So, one to the good for the home nation. Now into the men's event. So, into the next stage of the contest we go for the men. The small final, as it's called. Rekozhibov will go up against Ivan Frantsev, so it's an all-Russian battle for third at the moment. Just going back a race, Bronchikina looking super quick over the course there, and you'd have to say now the advantage is for a home gold in this parallel event.
Yeah, I think it'd be really great for the Russian team to be able to put down some gold medals on the last day of their event in their home country. I think they're going to be really excited about that, and Varvara, I think especially, it's well earned, and it's going to need to be well earned because, I mean, she's going to be racing Lori again coming up here, and she knows it, and that last race, Lori knows that she can be a little bit faster, and so it's going to come down to the wire. I enjoy good competition like this.
Frantsev and then Rekozhibov. Frantsev to the left. He's 27 years of age, some 20 years younger than the man on the right. But if the appetite is big, the number of age becomes quite irrelevant. Frantsev will know Rekozhibov's history, will know his talents, will know that he is a Paralympic champion.
Anya, the race director.
Absolutely.
And anything can happen at any time in this course because you have the conditions and you have the racers, and like I said, it's you versus the course. And if they mess up and they pay attention to the wrong thing at the wrong time, even the faster and better racer can still go through a panel and mess up. So that's what makes an event like this just so entertaining to watch.
I asked Jeroen Kampsteur the same question I'll ask you here. Would you take instructions whilst being a vision impaired skier? Is that something you would take on? Because it's a scary thing, isn't it? In any sport around the world, not just Alpine, but having to trust somebody to make a turn in swimming or run a track in athletics, to come down a mountain basically head first under instruction. Let's think Kabacka of Slovakia at this point, completely trusting the voices and the sounds in front of you. Is that something you feel you'd be comfortable with?
No.
That's an immediate no, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeroen said yes, but that doesn't surprise me at all. But
yes, it's a big no. There's not. I would be a swimmer or a biker.
To be fair, they bang their head quite a lot, so it's still not the most sensible. But there you go.
Yeah.
So there you go. Andrew Kirko saying that it would be a solid no.
Yeah, a solid no.
Solid no.
Yeah,
good.
No, it takes a little bit of crazy.
Here they go. That's Rekozhibov. No advantage for either, so a straight shootout, if you like, and that's possibly the best way to have it.
They both have the same visual disability. They both have the same factor, and that's what makes it so exciting, watching them be so tight coming down the hill.
Almost like watching a mirror at that point, wasn't it? There's not much in this.
It's going to come to this last knoll. Whoever handles this knoll the best.
Oh, there's not much on this at all.
Oh, there he goes. Valerie just barely got it. 300ths. Oh,
Wow.
no. Did Ivan get it?
No, it will go to Rekozhibov. The scoring system is kind of backwards in this one, so the 0.3 would suggest that he had the advantage, unless I've misread that. But for me, let's take a look here at the screen. But Rekozhibov just stretching out here. Oh, he might not have, you know. I think Frantsev does take that. On second watch, Frantsev does indeed get first victory.
Wow, 0.03 of a second, less than a blink.
Frightening amount of time that separated these two. Well, we called this from the beginning. No one's skiing better than Bertagnoli is what Andrew said. And I said I fancied Salka to get all the way to the final, and here they are. So the two that we thought are indeed the two that we will see.
And I really would have liked to see my teammate Thomas come in here, but unfortunately he's not able to make it into the finals. But I expect to see him and have him be one of the favorites coming into this event into the future. He's going to go home and he's going to train for it. I know he's really excited about this, and he didn't lose by much.
No, he's one of those that, like yourself, has an appetite to do this sort of event, and you could sense it within him this morning when I saw him. He was certainly feeling positive. You've got to spend an entire plane ride home with him.
I do.
Having knocked you out.
After he beat me.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Good luck with that.
Yep.
Makes me glad I'm sat on my own for 8 hours. Here we go.
All right.
Chance to lay down a marker as the first ever parallel event winner. Individual. 2 takes, of course, though. 2 runs. Salka Bertagnoli.
This is going to be close. This is going to be a really good race right here. I expect Salker to leave the start quite a bit sooner than Bertagnoli. And just as long as he stays consistent, and as long as he keeps skiing like he has been skiing, as long as he can keep that lead in front of Bertagnoli, he's going to have this. But Bertagnoli, again, so fast. And I expect to see him smashing some panels and doing everything he can to pressure that ski and move down this hill, especially with Andre pulling him in front. I think that it's going to be a good race. I'm looking forward to it.
I think with Arthur Malchet's sort of fairly dominant performances in the last sort of 18 months to 2 years, many forget that Markus Salka was an overall World Cup winner, 2016?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's loads of talent here, and he's had a couple of injuries as well, and he seems like he's now starting to recapture some of that World Cup winner form.
He's moving back into it. You know, the experienced racers like myself, like Markus Salker, winning these races right here isn't as big of a deal as winning the Paralympics or winning the World Championships. You kind of work into it and you build yourself up. You need a good solid base, and you don't want to stress yourself or burn yourself out at normal World Cup races. And so it's a common thing you can see with Salker. You know, he's building himself up and working in to being what he once was after an injury.
2 more stages of the World Alpine Skiing World Cup to come, as I mentioned earlier, in the month of March. Norway and Sweden are the next destinations. Are you at both of those?
I am at both of those, yes. I'll be in both Norway and Sweden, and I'm really looking forward to racing there. Those are 2 new World Cups that we haven't had on the Para-Alpine Skiing World Cup circuit yet, and I think they're going to be pretty awesome. You know, just from talking to Jesper Petersen, the Norwegian, he was telling me all about it, and he opened me up to a nice little challenge in the downhill, so it's going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
Not like Jesper to challenge anybody to anything.
No, absolutely.
He's a competitive boy as well.
Yeah, absolutely doesn't talk a lot. It makes it fun competition as well. You know, as long as you stay lighthearted with it, and as long as you're able to say a little bit and say it at the right times, it makes it all right, and it makes it fun to compete.
Is it a fair assessment to say that? And I've heard this again over the last decade that I've been doing this, but people often say to me the attitude and the camaraderie between para athletes and able body athletes is much better within para sport. There's that friendship first attitude.
Yeah. Well,
does that exist?
It does exist, and you know, Paralympic athletes, I like to say that we keep it in perspective. And
well, many of you have much bigger issues than just going out there and coming 8th.
You know, and not just that, but in the scheme of things, on this rock that's spinning 1,000 miles an hour, and in the scheme of your entire life, skiing really isn't that big of a deal. You know, when it comes down to it, and when it comes down to existence, and when it comes down to living, you know, being a nice person and going out there and competing against yourself is really what it's all about. It's not about, you know, beating other people. And when it is about beating other people, that's when you get that negative mindset that really builds into a sport.
Yeah, I've talked about this with Alexander, the Russian athlete with the double leg amputation.
Yeah.
If you think about or just over 10 years ago, there was a guy out climbing a mountain, falling, breaking both legs, frostbite, double leg amputation.
Almost dying. Yeah.
That's an entire world away now from what he used to have. So throwing himself down 60 seconds, 90 seconds worth of skiing, as you say, not necessarily about beating Andrew Kirker or beating Alabiev or beating Balcher or whatever. It's for him being able to say, nobody expects me to be able to do this.
Yep.
Looking from the outside in, nobody looks at me and thinks this guy can ski this course.
Yeah. You know, and when it comes down to it, being a winner doesn't really matter if nobody likes you. Are you really a winner at that point?
No wonder they put me in a room on my own.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, like what is victory? You know, if it's just for yourself, that's okay. I mean, you're out there, you're competing for yourself, but are you really the best version of yourself? You know, that's what it comes down to. And
do you know what? That is an excellent way of looking at life in general, whether parasport or able-bodied sport. It's a superb way of looking at it. Here, we've got two athletes potentially in this women's final, potentially at two ends of the spectrum for their careers. Valon Shakina very much in the early stages. We talk about your teammate Laurie Stevens. She still has that attitude that she wants to go out there and win. In terms of her impairment, in terms of her body, how much more can she give? So I'm thinking, like, you look like Stephanie Victor was into her 40s, I think, when she retired. So is there a sort of point, or is it not physical? Is it just kind of a case of, I'm bored now, I've done this for 20 years?
Well, a bit of it is psychological and a bit of it is physical as well. Like, you want to be able to physically stay competitive, but the psychological portion of things when it comes to ski racing is, do you still want to be the best? Do you still want to push yourself, or do you want to move on with other aspects of life? Because ski racing, like we talked about earlier, takes so much time and so much life to just do, to stay at a competitive level and to stay the best in the world and to keep competing. You don't really get to experience many other aspects of life. Here we go. Interesting,
then, when we get people like Barbara Van Bergen who become a para skier after having already been to 2 summer games as a wheelchair basketball player. Just fancied the change, perhaps, and didn't have the desire for basketball, something like that. But there we go. Bertagnoli and Salka, we said we fancied these two in the final. How hard can they push one another? And we said we thought it might be close. And at the moment, Salka has the advantage, pushing hard. But here comes the Italian in this final stretch.
He's
6 to go.
Crushing it right here towards the end, trying to pick up that speed just to get it right across the finish line. I think he got it. Bertagnoli.
Great finish.
Ooh.
Great finish from the Italian. Marcus Salka will know that's an opportunity dropped. He was quite a way ahead at one point. And as we talked about, the last sort of 6 or 7 gates being the danger zone for losing time, that's exactly what happened. Bertagnoli drops into the final sort of 10-gate area, a fraction behind, but he handles that 6th from home.
Exactly. He
much
handled
better.
That. It's the way he handled that knoll right there. And he didn't work against gravity. He worked with gravity moving down. And the way the timing on the screen is just makes it a little bit confusing, which is unfortunate. But right now, just to see Giacomo pull that off is pretty exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's next, what's to come, the next one, because, it could come down to the wire right here. Salker could win the next race because Salker was on the slower course. So coming into this next face-off with Salker and Bertagnoli, we might just see it. We might just see it come down to the hundredths, which is going to be pretty exciting because that one came down to the tenths.
A little bit of fresh paintwork. If that doesn't become a heart, I'll eat my hat. That looks where it was going. There is Mr. Walsh looking on. Go on, sir. Don't disappoint me.
There it is.
There we go.
I mean, Valentine's Day was not long ago.
We all spent it alone.
Yeah.
Every single one of us.
Yeah. But that's okay because we were doing what we love. Skiing, like I said.
That's right. So the gathering at the top, it's taking some organising and orchestrating. It's not the easiest of things to do, as you can imagine. The athletes themselves hurtled themselves to the bottom of the finish line, and then you pretty much want them back at the top immediately. Well, that's just not capable. So
Yep.
they jump on these ski machines. I'm not sure they've showed them live on the broadcast yet, but they're right outside of our window. We see we already can see that Salka and Bertagnoli and the guide are already being hitched up, and that sounds worse than it is, but they are literally being dragged up with a rope.
Yep,
Either between their legs or through their hands. So
on the back of a snow machine or a Ski-Doo or a Polaris or whatever you want to call it, they're hopping on the back or they're being drug up by a T-bar strap, and they're heading up to the top. And then when they first get up to the top, the first thing they're doing is they're giving their skis to their techs. Their techs are putting some quick juice in them, putting some quick fluoros right in the base of them to try to speed them up there for the first part of the gate, and then they're popping right back into them, and they're getting in the gate and they're getting ready to race. Like I said,
I'll try and come back to that subject because that's another one that, again, for the average spectator, I want to explain a little bit more. We've seen a lot of that in the clip, so let's get this third place battle underway. Schmidt, from this point, you would imagine too far behind, especially with 2.66 being the difference. But Korosheva,
last run, Digna was able to get it. She was able to get off in the lead, and she was able to win. So hopefully she'll be able to do that again right here for Switzerland. Korosheva, I mean, right now it's just all about minimizing mistakes, using the fall line to the best of your ability, and pushing out of the start right here. Let's see how it goes.
Can the Russians get 2 podium places? So Schmidt is the one that comes out first from the gate. So
I think they might have made it a little bit backwards on the timing list there, and that's all right. That's okay. I think Bigna's got this one in the bag, I think, as long as she doesn't make any big mess-ups, and as long as she handles that knoll right here at the end just fine, which on the blue course it's a bit easier. It's not quite as dramatic, as you can see right there. High and early, pressuring right in the fall line, crossing the finish line, and to third place. Looks like Bigna Schmidt got it in the bag.
Schmidt indeed takes this one for Switzerland, as the graphic says there, third place. Do you have to fight the temptation to want to look behind? Is there that little temptation to kind of try and sneak a look? Or is it too quick out of the course?
I've done it before, but it doesn't pan out well. No. You don't want to.
You don't really want to take your eyes off the prize, do you, really?
Exactly. And just like Bigna did right there, you know, I'm sure she was able to hear Anastasia coming down, and she was able to know exactly how much of a lead she had, and so she just stayed smooth and she pulled off the podium. She did a really great job right there.
Just saw the winner's chair down there. How cool is that chair?
It's cool, like a Game of Thrones type thing.
Everybody's took their chance to sit in it this week, whether they've led or not. They've all been running towards that chair. Okay, right hand side.
This is the finals, and this is going to determine it. As long as neither of these ladies are able to mess up, I think they're both going to be either in first and second place. So, Varvara, the big thing here is that she doesn't make any big mistakes coming down the mountain. As long as she stays smooth and she stays consistent, she's going to be able to win. And if she does mess up, I promise Lori is going to stay consistent. She's going to capitalize on that.
A lot of pride for a 19-year-old from Russia to take this parallel event here on home snow. So
it's going to be huge for her if she manages this victory on the last day of the competition here in her home country in Sakhalin. Man, she's gonna love it.
You talked about sort of self-promotion and sort of being in the public domain. I've seen being out and about in the towns, I've seen that this coverage has made national TV stations here, not just the one that's being broadcast on, but others have sort of picked up on news as well. To be a local and to be sort of shown on the TV screens in the state here would be huge for her.
I bet it is huge for sponsors and just in general, because this is a very expensive sport, and to be able to have that support, both emotional support and monetary support, having that publicity makes a huge difference. And I bet you it's able to help give her a bit of a boost in her career. Being able to have a World Cup here at home and to be able to achieve some victories has got to be huge for her.
Is it hard to get recognised in the street? Because bear in mind, you're wearing a helmet and goggles for the majority of your time on screen.
Well, that's why my monoski is green, and that's why a lot of people want to stand out. But not just that, but it's hard to be recognized in para-sport as well, because it's still growing and people are just starting to take it serious and just starting to realize that we are competitive and we are talented.
Is it Taiki Mori that has the chainmail look? The sort of chain effect on the front of it? Is that Taiki?
And it's super, super sleek looking. Yeah, it's super aero. It's pretty awesome. All right, here we go. Coming to the finals for the women.
Veronikina will have to come from behind again, but she had a bigger disadvantage last time out. Laurie Stevens, one last big push here in Sakhalin. This is the final race for these two ladies. Is it going to be Russian victory, or can Stevens find something big in this last run? Veronikina is coming, and Veronikina is coming at pace.
She really is, but let's see how she handles that final knoll coming off the hill right here. Just flawless as she flies into the finish line. Varvara has the win.
Well, not many around the world could beat that. Veronikina showing a very, very slick performance, not just here in the final run, but pretty much all the way through this parallel contest. And the young Russian will indeed get to be on top of the podium here in Russia. So Veronikina takes the parallel title from Laurie Stevens. It's Russia, USA, Switzerland for the podium.
Which is pretty awesome in general. I mean, I'm happy my teammate was able to make the podium, and I'm happy Varvara was able to win in her home country. And for the first time having this event here, I'm sure Bigna is just as excited being able to pull off that bronze medal. She knows that she's standing in it, and I bet you she's super excited to be able to do this event again.
Manny Bochet has had a pretty dominant couple of years. Not just them, but first athlete ever to win 5 golds back-to-back at World Championships. That sort of record. Does she take a look at people like Veronikina coming through? I think Zhang of China has emerged on the scene in the last year or so. What does Mary do? Just carry on, or is there a mindset when you are the dominant in your field? Is there something different you want to do? You try and mix it up a little bit, change it, or do you just carry on being you?
I'm sure that she is carrying on being her. Marie she's a good person, she's a good competitor, and I'm sure she's comfortable right where she is. All right, here we go.
As well, remember.
Yep.
Valery Kozhubov against Frantsev. Again, the Russians will have somebody on the podium in the parallel event for the men. They've got one for the women.
Ooh, Valery just barely in the lead. Ivan kind of taking up the rear. Will he be able to pass him here? The red course, right there. That mess up, just like I said.
Well, Frantsev will come racing through.
Ivan got him.
And that is victory for Ivan Frantsev. 3rd place for the Russian.
It looked like Valery, as he was coming down right there, he just maybe caught a little bit inside. Yeah, so he caught a little bit inside, pressured that inside ski. It caught a rut, and it just kind of threw him offline, and he wasn't able to make it up. His guide was just a little bit too far ahead of him, and he probably wasn't able to see where his next turn was supposed to be.
I'll call him the youngster, despite the fact that he's 27, but he is compared to Kozhubov, the 47-year-old, makes the mistake and allows Frantsev to go on and be victorious.
And that was just really good skiing on his behalf. Like he did a really good job, and he stayed consistent and he pressured in the fall line. It looks like he was able to pull off a podium here.
Well, one final race to come then here in Sakhalin, and it's the second of the men's parallel final races. Bertagnoli on the left, Salka on the right. when this is done, it'll be time to say goodbye. An event that has not disappointed. It might not have had the numbers it wanted, but it certainly had the drama and the races that it asked for. And here, one last time.
600s. It's going to be tight coming out of the start, and it's going to be tight all the way to the finish line. This is the way a final should be.
Bertagnoli has the advantage from the first race.
Here we go.
Feel a little bit of tension at the top there. That was the quietest it's been for any of the starts. Salka versus Bertagnoli. Austria versus Italy.
Right
the race
here,
to the finish is on.
coming down towards the end. Bertagnoli just barely behind. Oh, pressuring underneath the gate. Looks like Salker might take this win right here. Yep.
And through the line he comes.
Yep,
And Marcus
Salker
Salker
got it.
delighted. Bertagnoli, well, he never seemed under pressure throughout all the rounds. And when the pressure came, it was just too much. Marcus Salker, and we talked about what it meant for somebody like Salker, who's starting to return to what is his best. He was delighted as he came through the line.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, especially when you're able to win head-to-head against someone who you know is one of the best. It just means so much to be able to pull off a victory. And, you know, not just competitive to beat Bertagnoli. It's not about beating Bertagnoli. It was about, you know, being able to win for himself and being able to be fast and prove to himself that he today is the fastest. That's pretty awesome.
He is, and absolutely delighted he is with that performance. Salker, yes, he's breathing heavy. That's probably the longest shift that he's wanted to do for a long while. He's put his body through it, as you were talking about, race after race after race. It's that's eight trips down from the heat stage through to the final. Not the easiest of things to do, and that's it. The gates have opened and shut for one last time here in Sakhalin. They've showed us plenty of love here in this competition. So thank you to all that have tuned in from right around the world. We know that people have watched all the way across over to the States. People in Central Europe have made their way to their televisions despite being some 10 or 11 hours difference in the back. Thank you for joining us at the World Para-Alpine Skiing World Cup from Sakhalin. Andrew Kirker, thanks for being here with me on the final day.
Thank you for having me. Looks like we're going to roll out just as the weather rolls in.
Certainly will. From everybody here in Sakhalin, from myself, Alan March, goodbye.